always gives us compliments on our farm fence, on our 4-rail farm fence that my dad has helped me to build. And I want to do a quick overview because we have like 3 videos that's out there. I want to make this video a video that consolidates all of those videos and tell you about every single tool that we use to build this farm fence. So starting with this wonderful Echo chainsaw. We used this chainsaw once we got each post into the ground in order to fit the caps on. So when you see the caps right here, when the posts were too tall, what we did was use a chainsaw in order to cut the posts down. So this was the reason why we needed the chainsaw, and also to cut each individual board to fit properly on the fence. But I know I skipped ahead, so let's start with something that is very at the beginning of building the fence. You first of all need an auger. We used an auger midway through building this farm fence, which is about 500 feet long. And the auger towards the end helped us to save some time. So what we did was rent an auger from the nearest farm supply store. And as you can see, we got the post in. It took a little bit of time. We drilled all the holes ahead of time before finally using the post hole digger in order to take all the dirt out of the ground from the pre-drilled holes. So we used the auger first and then came back after the auger and took all of the dirt out of the ground using the post hole digger. Another thing that we did use while we were making the holes is what my dad calls the breaker bar. We used this just in case there were roots in the ground that had to be broken up. And what you do is just use this to hit the ground inside the hole in order to get the roots loose and to be able to dig. What we did was like 2 feet in the ground. We had 6 feet posts and dug 2 feet into the ground in order to set the post. So we dug and used the breaker bar for any problems that we had with digging the holes. So once we got all the holes dug, we put the posts into the ground and pretty much did not need to use any concrete. Once we set the posts, we used the earth and also some pebbles in order to set the posts. Now, another important thing that we used in order to kind of like keep the posts very much lined up is string. So once we got the end post in, we connected a string to make sure all the in-between posts stayed leveled and in the same direction, where like they weren't staggered. They were just going lined up perfectly. So we used string. That's the next thing that we used. Another thing that we use other than the string to make sure things are leveled is, of course, your handy dandy leveler. And what we did with that is to put it on each board in between posts to make sure that everything was leveled. And we also leveled the posts too. So you definitely need a leveler in order to build your 4-rail farm fence. Now I want to show you something that my dad had to actually build in order to put up the individual deck boards. He had to build a spacer, and you use this spacer. Here's 2 of them. You use 2 spacers to space the boards all the way down so that everything is even going all the way down.
The main thing, you had to keep the spacing, that's all. You too. This unit right here. Spacing here.
He built this.
Yeah.
These 2 units.
Spacing, that's how you keep the gap in uniformity. Back over there. You know what I'm saying? If you see when you put it, okay. See how level that is?
Yeah.
According to the fence right there. I'm saying the gap between both of them. You got a guide. The main thing, you have to have a guide when you put a fence up.
And then that's why you have these
Clamps.
the clamps to hold your man-made guide in place.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I could do them faster. No guesswork.
No guesswork.
So in order to have the 4 boards with proper spacing in between each board, going all the way down for the full 500 feet, you definitely have to build your own spacers for that, just so that everything looks clean and even. So we also use this in order to clip on the spacers. So we clip this onto each spacing board that my dad created. You need these clips on each end. Another thing that's really, really important as you're placing your boards on the posts is to make sure you have your drill. So this is the drill that we normally use. It's battery operated. We always have an extra battery just in case the other one goes out. So here's the drill, and here is the deck screws that we use. We always make sure that we use the 3.5-inch deck screws. Another thing to get is to make sure you have gloves. So I use these gloves not only to put up the 4-rail farm fence, but also to put up the cattle fence because we're dealing with barbed wire. So if you have yourself some good gloves, that'll help keep your hands safe while you're building the fence. So now that everything is in place and the fence is completely up, what we do is go back and put the dirt back in the hole by using a hoe. And we also use a rake to rake the pebbles in. So while Dad has a hoe, I also have a hoe. So we use 2 hoes because we're working together as a team. And then the other thing, of course, is to make sure you have a shovel too, to help scoop and put the dirt back in each hole. So what we typically do is wait until the weather is above 50 degrees and the wood is dry. Then we go back and we also put paint on the farm rail fence. So the paint that I like, because I like black paint, I think it makes everything look chic. I use Glidden. You can't really see it right now, but this is Glidden black paint. And this is what we use in order to paint the fence. It has primer in it already, so you don't need any primer. It's already primer in there. And we use this in order to paint the fence. So that's really it. This is just a consolidated video to show you all the tools that we used, and the time that it took was approximately a little under 3 weeks in order to build the fence. But we did it ourselves, and guess what? It saved us lots of money. We took our time, used our own bodies as labor, and we used our own tools, and that saved us thousands of dollars in order to build our farm fence. So I hope that this encourages you to be able to take on the task yourself. If I can do it, right, you can do it too. I had my dad out here and I was out here, an older man and a woman. It was just 2 of us out here building a fence that is 500 feet long. So I hope that you're encouraged. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.